And now we come to Vermeer. In the middle you see the kitchen maid, on the left is the little street, and on the right is Vermeer's woman reading a letter. Let's go to the left first. But whenever I stand in front of these three small canvases, I always tell myself that these little wonders really are just simply bits of linen covered in paint. So here we have the little street. Vermeer's little street was owned by a fellow townsman of his, Pieter van Ruiven, who had 19 other Vermeers in his possession. He was obviously a great admirer. And you're looking right into the 17th century as you're looking at this painting. There's a woman sitting in the doorway and another slightly further back in the passageway. You can also see a child playing. In fact, there are two of them. One with its back to us and the other one crouched beneath what looks like a bench. The woman in the doorway is sewing. But just look at the brickwork. The missing bricks and the bits and pieces are slightly askew. The question is, has this house really existed? If you look, for instance, at the two green shutters on the windows above the children and you open them in your mind's eye, the one shutter would block the passageway and the other one would block the doorway. So in fact they're too big. Unless they're folding shutters, but I don't think that's the case. That white plasterwork did exist. They did this to keep the vermin out. Like they still do in the southern countries. They whitewash the lower portion of the walls of their houses. And perhaps that's what we're looking at here. What is a fact, though, is that the white adds the interest to the picture. This painting wouldn't be so interesting to look at if the white wasn't there. So perhaps the artist put the whitewash in to achieve a better effect. But what's far stranger here is that a fine painter like Vermeer has left out the faces, particularly the face of the woman sitting in the doorway. But what's important about this painting is the tranquility. And the kitchen maid, that's the same, equally tranquil. A breathtaking picture, with the milk that's been pouring from that jug for centuries. Look at the hand, how beautifully that is done. And if you stand close up to the picture, you can see the bread rolls, are covered in tiny little dots. But what strikes you in this painting is this strange table. Perhaps you hadn't spotted it yet, but the line of the table should in reality be coming towards us. It should continue where that blue cloth is. The line is be interrupted where the blue cloth is. Now we know that Vermeer used a camera obscura to copy some real scenes, upside down admittedly, but he used it here too. And then he probably noticed that the table took up too much space, upsetting the balance, which is why he shortened the table. But that's not what's important about this picture. What we look at is how carefully the girl pours out the milk. What's also very beautiful is the lapis lazuli. They used real lapis lazuli for this. The folds in the overskirt or whatever it is, and the cloth on the edge of the table is slightly a different blue. It's just beautiful. And look at how the sleeves are joined to the shoulder. You can actually see the red stitching, the holes in the wall, and the nail at the top. You can see it so clearly. And the broken window pane. The reflection of the window in the brass bucket hanging behind the basket. And the tiles along the bottom of the wall. They're really so beautiful, in fact. These tiles formed a kind of skirting board, so that when you washed the floor, the wall wouldn't get soaking wet. And you can see a little wad or something on the floor just by the tiles. Okay, let's move on to the lady next door, who's been standing there reading that letter for centuries. Here we have another one of those maps on the wall, and the same wonderful detail again. But the psychology of this woman is particularly interesting. She's obviously pregnant and she's received a letter, perhaps from her husband who's away, far away somewhere. And she's moved. She's looking at the letter. And the light I talked earlier about in relation to John Seale, the cinematographer, it's here in these paintings too. The light from one side, creating tranquility, making the light in the picture pale. And I can see how you want to use that as a cameraman. Vermeer painted that so phenomenally well. And her jacket is beautiful too, and her hands and the letter. Well, stand back now for a moment and look at the three pictures together.